So hello, today we will talk about how to format output in C++. We can do that using some functions that we can use. But before we use these functions, we need to import this file. Like you need to write include IO manipulate. So IO manip. So we can use function like setW. So set W will give us some spaces and will try to print within this space. It's best to see that with example. So imagine I want to print some numbers. So I want to print these numbers in 6 spaces. So this numbers only need 4 spaces, right? Normally it should be printed from starting from here, but I will give it 6 spaces and I print it. It will be aligned by default to the right. Same thing like 34. It has 6 spaces and it's printed in these 6 spaces. Same like this number. So let's see the code, what's going on. First, we need to include IO manip. So this is if we want to use the function setW. And then we created like 9 variables of type integer, and we give initial value for every number, and we want to print these numbers, but we don't want to print them in a normal way. We want to print them in a window of 6 spaces. So when you write 6w, 6 with 6, this means like you give a window of 6 spaces for this number, and this number will be written in or printed in the right. So let's see the output again. So this is the window for the first number. This is the window for the second number. This is the window for the third number. Because we use before every printing of this number, we use set W6, set W6, set W6, and so on. Same for all the numbers. So that's why it looks like here we can make it looking like a table. So this is how to use setW function. We can also use another functions like fixed or set precision or show points, but for that let me show you the example. uh, so set precision and fix, usually they are used together. So if you write cout set precision 2 and then fixed, if you call these two function, this means that you want only to show 2 decimal points. So you show only 2 decimal points after this decimal point. So everything what is printed after this is printing using 2 decimal points. So see here also we use set W 8, which give us a room of 8 spaces to print this number. So you see here normally it should be written 4594.9, but because we set the precision to 2 and we use fix, it has to show that we are using a 2 decimal point. So the rest of the program is the same. Just don't forget to include IO manipulating if you want to use set W or set precision or fixed. So here are explanation of these functions. Set W, it gives you a space where you can print the number. Fixed, it display the floating points in a fixed point notation. So it does not show it in a scientific notation or any other notations. Show points causes the decimal points and trailing 0 to be displayed even if there is no fraction. So even the number is integer, it will show some point 0, something like this. Set precision will tell you how many number after the decimal point you need, how many floating point numbers. And this left and right, it tells you whether the number should be written on the left or the right of the window that we decide when we write set W. So the next section is how to work with character. This section, like, it's advanced details, but we can just go through it. So when we make CN, sometimes we have a problem. let me explain you what's the problem that we have sometimes when you use cin. Imagine you want a program that asks you to enter something, to enter any keyword character. Okay, so here you define a variable of type character. You ask the user to enter any keyboard button. Okay, so if you write normal cnch like this, if you write cnch like this, like how we learned before, if you write enter or space, it will not be recognized an input because it's deleted spaces, and enter, this is not recognized an input. But if you want a program that does not ignore these spaces, then in this case you have to write cn.getch. cn.getch, even you make white space, it will be considered as character and it will be stored here. So this is the only difference. Otherwise we will use just cn. Okay, but cn.ch will not ignore the white spaces and the enter. So that's the main point of the cn.get. So it's similar to cn and another way to do cn, but it has small advantage. Same thing if you want, this is if you want to read one character, but if you want to read like complete line, you can use getLine cn, and then you give the variable where you want this line to be stored. We want it to be stored in a variable of type name. So as I mentioned, these details are not so important. We use, most of the time we use cn without using getLine or cn.get, but in case you saw it, you know for what it is. Also, like sometimes in the program it's not good to mix between cn and cn.get, because sometimes you get problem if you did this. If you want to use them both, you need to use something called cn.ignore, but let's ignore this topic actually, because it's so advanced and usually we will not mix. Most of the time, like 99% of the time, it's enough for us to use just cn as we did before. So this is important thing. Now if you want to know the length of the string, you define a variable of type string and you give it some value. You want to know how many characters are there, you can call state.length. The name of the string dot length will tell me how many characters are there in this string. Okay, if you want to merge, if you want to merge two strings, you can just do plus. This means I am merging the two strings into one large string. So greeting2 is greeting1 plus name1. Greeting1 will be greeting1 with name. So I'm combining greeting1 with name into one string and storing it in greeting1. Also I can use like a plus equals in the strings, same like I use it for integer, which means I combine. So it's like you are adding one string to the current string. So here are some mathematical function that we will use. If you want to use this mathematical function, you need to include cmath file. Okay, normally this function take double as input and return double as output. Like if you want to compute the sine, you use sine function, cosine, tan, square root, log, and absolute value. The absolute value take integer and return integer, but all others just take double and return double. Sometimes you can use another library called cstd library, so C standard library. If you include this, then you can use rand. Rand will return a random number between 0 and the largest integer number. Okay, sometimes there is something similar which is called srand, where you can decide to write here some integer, and this integer will have effect on the sequence of the random numbers that you will get. But most of the time we just use rand to generate random numbers. So next, let's study tracing a program. So usually it's very helpful to trace the program. What's the meaning of tracing the program? Imagine that you are a computer and you are executing this problem. So you do this step by step. So if you trace the program, then you can uh, locate the errors that you get, not the compile error, because the compile error you will easily find. The compiler will tell you there is error here. But sometimes you have logical error. You get wrong numbers, for example, or wrong output, and you want to know where is the problem. In this case, it's very helpful to trace the program. This is a simple example of tracing the program. So we define 4 variables. Normally these variables, till now, you write them in a table. Till now, there is no values for them. After that, you ask the user to enter a number. Let's say the user entered 10, then you stored here 10. You ask the user to enter a second number. Then imagine he entered 20, it will be stored here. Then the user enter a third number, 30. Then you want to compute the average. So average will be number 1 plus number 2 plus number 3 divided by 3. Normally the average should be 20, but because you didn't include here brackets, it's a mistake. So that's when you make tracing, you will figure out what is the mistake and you try to correct it. So the last thing in this chapter, we will talk about case study. It's like a roughly medium program. We'll make a program. So this program is for a company called General Crates Company. So this company build wooden crates, like build wooden box and sell it to the customers. You are asked to write a simple program that calculates some numbers for this company. So that this company needs you to calculate the volume of each box the company want to produce. And the company asks you also to compute the cost of this box. How much does it cost? And also the company asks you to compute how much the price should be for this box. And then you compute the profit of this box or crate. So to do that, you need to define some variables. So here you decide the variable that you want to use. Okay, so this cost per cubic foot, this is how much this will cost. It's a fixed cost. The company tell you that if we want to make 1 cubic foot, it will cost $0.23, let's say. And the company told you that the company is selling it for $0.5. So this is giving to you. And also the length is given by the user, the width, the height, the dimension of the box is given by the user. You need to compute the volume, and then after you complete the volume, you multiply it by this and you get the cost. Also the volume you multiply it by this and then you get the charge or the price. And then if you make the price minus the cost, then you get the profit. So this is the program. Usually it's good to design the program. Before you start coding, try to write the steps that you want to do. So step 1, you need to ask the user to enter the dimension of the box. The step 2, you need to calculate many things. You need to calculate the volume, you need to calculate the cost of building the box, the customer price, how much you will sell it, and the profit. And step 3, you want to display it, everything that you calculated in step 2. So we can make a graph actually. This is how to teach you, like before you program, you should organize the code, you should analyze, you should draw, write the steps. So here we want to calculate the crate volume, cost, profit, and price and profit. So we have 3 main steps: to get the dimension, to calculate these numbers, and to display them. To get the dimension, we need to get 3 values. Okay. To calculate, we need to calculate 4 values. And to display, we need to display the 4 values. So here is the kind of pseudocode. You ask the user to input the length, the width, the height, then you calculate the volume, you calculate the cost, the price, and the profit, and then you display the four things. And here are some calculations that you need. How to compute the volume. This is the equation for the volume, this is the equation for the cost, this is for the price, and this is for the profit. And then you are ready to start the code. So this program we are using IO manipulate because we want to use some format like set per session and fix show point. This to use 2 decimal points for the numbers. So here we are defining two constants, constant double, because this will not change, the cost per foot and the cost per cubic foot. This will not change during the program. So we define all the variables, and then we set the desired formatting. We want 2 decimal points, and then we make 3 cn for the length and width and height, and then we compute the volume, the cost, the charge, the profit, and then we printed everything. So this is show you how we organize this kind of programs. So if you are writing middle or large program, you need to organize and design the program before start coding. So I hope it's clear, and see you in the next video.